I can't even afford to drive to work anymore. Gas is almost $5 a gallon in upstate New York, and I can't afford it.
$91.59. How are people going to make it?
I physically cannot afford it anymore. I actually can't afford it. I commute for work. I get gas every 3 days. I can't do it. And I'm tired of this shit.
The first time I put that bullshit gas E15 in this truck. Now look. Won't start.
I don't think people realize that the energy crisis hasn't actually started yet. A lot of people think we're in the middle of it, but we're not. It hasn't even begun.
Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at the gas crisis that's quietly becoming not so quiet anymore. We've got clips showing people who literally can't afford to fill their tanks to get to work, the E15 ethanol situation that's messing with fuel efficiency and potentially destroying older vehicles, and a warning that according to some people, the worst of this hasn't even started yet. There's a lot to get through here, so let's jump right into it.
I can't even afford to drive to work anymore. Gas is almost $5 a gallon in upstate New York, and I can't afford it. I can't afford to drive a half hour to work every single day, fill up my tank. Anyway, here I am at work.
Okay, so this one hits immediately because it's not abstract at all. This isn't somebody complaining about gas prices in theory. This is somebody saying out loud that they cannot financially afford to drive to their job anymore. Half-hour commute, $5 a gallon in upstate New York, filling up every few days. That math starts adding up to hundreds of dollars a month just to show up to work. And for a lot of people, especially anyone in a lower wage job, that's a genuine crisis. The cost of getting to work is eating into the paycheck you're going to work to earn. At some point, that equation just stops making sense.
I just filled up my car and I'm kind of like shell-shocked. I have a 20-gallon car and I just use the cheap shit, like the 85. $91.59. How are people going to make it? What? I don't even drive a truck. Like, I drive a mid-sized car. 20 gallons, $91. Help us.
And this one just puts a real number on it. 20-gallon tank, mid-sized car, nothing crazy, and it's $91 to fill up. That's not a truck, that's not an SUV, that is just a regular car that a regular person drives. And I think a lot of people have had that same moment at the pump recently, where you just kind of stand there for a second in disbelief. The help us at the end says everything. Let me know in the comments what you're currently paying to fill up where you live, because I feel like it varies wildly depending on what state you're in, and people don't always realize how different it is across the country.
Okay, you know how I know it's bad out here? Look at this. $5. Someone put in $5. Over here, someone put in $15. And I'm literally about to put in $6 because I cannot afford anything more than $6 of gas.
And this is the part that really puts it in perspective for me. $5 at the pump, $15, $6. These are not people being cheap. These are people genuinely putting in what they can afford that day and nothing more. We've talked on this channel about living paycheck to paycheck, about emergency funds being wiped out, and this is what that actually looks like in daily life. You're rationing your gas the same way you'd ration anything else when money is tight. That's where we are right now for a very significant number of people.
I just want to say this real quick. I had a full-ass crash out about gas prices. Gas, $65 for one tank. I was paying $40 to $45 for a tank a couple months ago. I physically cannot afford it anymore. I actually can't afford it. I commute for work. I get gas every 3 days. I can't do it. And I'm tired of this shit.
$65 a tank when you were paying $40 to $45 just a couple months ago. And you're filling up every 3 days for a work commute. That's not a lifestyle choice. That's just getting to your job. Do the math on that, and you're looking at potentially $600 or more a month just in gas for a commute. And wages did not go up to cover that. Nothing went up to cover that. The crash out she's describing is completely understandable because it's not about being bad with money, it's about a basic cost of living expense that has just gotten completely out of hand with no real relief in sight.
Okay, pilot, explain this. How the is this shit now 15% ethanol? And you have to use it in 2001 or newer vehicles. My first car wasn't that, so I couldn't use it in that, which means I'd have to use this, which is $4.01. Because that's the one that has 10% now. So not only is our gas more diluted, it's more expensive.
Okay, so this is where it starts getting into territory that I think a lot of people haven't fully clocked yet. E15, 15% ethanol, becoming the default at more and more pumps. And if you have an older vehicle, you literally cannot use it without risking damage, which means you're being funneled toward the more expensive option by default. So not only is the fuel more diluted, it's also potentially more expensive for people driving older cars, which tends to be exactly the people who can least afford it. That's a rough combination any way you look at it.
E15 gas at Flying J. E15 has taken over the pumps. The only option with 10% is premium. Let's test the E15 and see what we get. I can't believe I'm putting this shit in my car. I gotta believe the line though. And they do have the sticker. Use only in 2001 newer passenger vehicles or flex fuel vehicles. Do not use in other vehicles, boats, or gasoline powered equipment. It may cause damage and it's prohibited by federal law. All right, let's make sure we're getting what we pay for. 32 ounces to read 0.250 or less. The further they're under, the more we're getting. All right, so we're at 0.242, which that's on the lower end of the ones I checked. All right, so this is my first time testing E15, so I'm very curious to see what's gonna happen. Let's get our water level. All right, we're staying for 30 seconds. We'll wait 5 and see what we have. All right, I've tested 8 gas stations so far for E10 to see what this smells like. There's a big difference. There really is. It doesn't smell as much like gasoline. It smells like alcohol. It smells lighter than gasoline. All right, it's been 7 minutes and it's right on the line exactly.
And this guy is actually out here testing it, which I appreciate because most people are just going off what they've heard. The smell difference alone is apparently noticeable, less like gasoline, more like alcohol. And the efficiency numbers he's running through are telling a pretty clear story. When you're filling up more often and getting fewer miles per tank, the savings at the pump start to disappear pretty quickly. What do you guys think about the E15 rollout? Have you noticed your car running differently or filling up more often lately? Because based on everything in this video, it sounds like a lot of people have been experiencing this without knowing exactly why.
So this is why you have been running out of gas faster, okay? As of 24 hours ago, Congress officially passed a law, officially being the key word, stating that they are now going to allow E15 to be added to fuel and gasoline year-round. Here's what that actually means in English, okay? E15 is ethanol, okay? It is something that they add into fuel to reduce the amount of fuel that you need to use, okay? Now, typically you've seen it before. At a gas station, there'll be a sign on the pump that says may contain up to 10% ethanol, okay? Now, there's been times where companies have put more or less ethanol based on the weather, the season, the heat outside, things like that. Additionally, like I've been talking about for months, there was a time during World War II where the federal government gave oil and gas companies in America permission to add additional levels of ethanol to the fuel in order to reduce the effects of fuel rationing. I have been saying that this had been happening for months since we entered into Iran. This is why you have been running out of gas more quickly. This is why you are experiencing rough idle when you're sitting in the school parking lot waiting for your kids to get out and your car kind of shakes every once in a while. This is why when you turn on your engine, your gas needle drops more than ever. And this is why if you have a car that tells you how many miles you have to empty, it no longer makes any sense, okay? It is up and down all over the place. It is because you are experiencing reduced fuel efficiency, okay? Now, as of yesterday, Congress authorized oil and gas companies into America to begin adding E15 to fuel, meaning now we are going to experience up to 15% ethanol. So for those of you who don't know what that means, let me explain how it is actually going to affect you. The idea is you are going to pay a little bit less at the pump, hopefully, okay, if the problem doesn't continue to get worse. worse. Now, you pay a little bit less at the pump, but the side effect of that is you run out of gas faster, meaning you have to put more gas. The last 3-4 months, we've been getting gaslighted into believing that that is not what was happening, but it has been. Everyone has pretty much universally agreed you don't smell gas at the pump anymore. You run out of gas more quickly. Your car is not driving as far as it used to, or now it costs more to fill up, and you got to fill up more often. Okay, it is because they have already been doing this. They are now just realizing they can't keep playing in our face and act like we aren't going to notice it. Okay, so here's what you need to do. Well, really, there's nothing you can do. If you drive an old car, sorry, you're screwed, okay? It is going to drastically reduce the engine life that you have, even if you drive a modern era vehicle. It is going to be very bad for people who drive older cars. Now, if you happen to drive what society would label a beater, you know who you are. Your car is going to start to fall apart very quickly, okay? So you may want to, I don't know, maybe stockpile gas now, if that's an option, or start to develop plans on how you can buy a vehicle that is a little bit newer with a little bit less wear and tear on the engine, because this gas is going to start tearing cars apart.
Alright, so this is the most detailed breakdown of the whole ethanol situation in this video, and there's a lot here worth paying attention to. The core of what he's saying is pretty straightforward. More ethanol means less fuel efficiency, which means you fill up more often, which means the savings at the pump aren't really savings at all. And the part about older vehicles is genuinely concerning, because the people most likely to be driving a beater are the people who are already struggling financially. Now their car is potentially getting damaged by the fuel they're being sold at every pump. And the rougher idle, the needle dropping faster, the miles to empty reading going haywire. He's describing something that a lot of people have been noticing and couldn't explain. Whether or not you agree with every part of his take, those real-world symptoms are hard to argue with.
Y'all want to sit here and act like what the government's doing isn't wrong or whatever. I've had this truck since I don't even know how long, like 15 years I've had this truck. Always has ran good for me. The first time I put that bullshit gas E15 in this truck. Now look. Won't start. Starter fluid spraying up in it and everything. Will not start. The E15 they're giving us is going to destroy your vehicle. This truck has been a trooper for years and has been running just fine for years. I put that gas in there, boom.
And this is the real-world consequence right here. 15 years, same truck, runs fine, put E15 in it once, and now it won't start. I know some people will say there could be other factors. Maybe the truck was already on its way out. Fair enough. But when you've got a vehicle that's been reliable for over a decade, and the first problem coincides directly with a fuel change, that's not nothing. And for somebody who depends on that truck to get to work or run a small business, this isn't just an inconvenience. It could be financially devastating. A truck repair or replacement on top of everything else people are already dealing with right now is a serious hit.
I don't think people realize that the energy crisis hasn't actually started yet. A lot of people think we're in the middle of it, but we're not. It hasn't even begun. $4.50 gas does not make an energy crisis. No, we're just headed towards an energy crisis. That's what we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 months. The warnings from Exxon and Chevron are about the coming energy crisis, when we run out of cushion, when we no longer have commercial inventories or lots of stocks in SPRs around the world. That's when the energy crisis actually begins.
And this is probably the most sobering clip in the whole video, because everything else we've watched today is essentially the warm-up act, according to this guy. $4.50 a gallon doesn't constitute an energy crisis in his view. It's just the early warning signs. When commercial inventories run low and strategic reserves are depleted, that's when the actual crisis kicks in. And if that assessment is even partially correct, then all of the clips we just watched, people rationing $6 of gas, trucks getting destroyed by ethanol, $91 fill-ups for a mid-sized car, all of that is happening before the real pressure hits. That's a difficult thing to sit with. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, especially your own specific experiences with gas prices, E15 fuel, or whether you've noticed your car's efficiency changing recently. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later. Yeah.